5 seconds to go. Start. The primary question for determination is whether the respondent plaintiff has proved his readiness and willingness to perform his part of the contract or not. Sign of interrogation, para. Section 16 of the Specific Relief Act, 1963, as it stood at the material time prior to amendment with effect from 1st October 2018, inter alia, provides, para. Specific performance of a contract cannot be enforced in favor of a person, who would not be entitled to recover compensation for its breach, who has become incapable of performing, or violates any essential term of, the contract that on his part remains to be performed, or acts in fraud of the contract, or willfully acts at variance with, or in subversion of, the relation intended to be established by the contract, who fails to ever and prove that he has performed or has always been ready and willing to perform the essential terms of the contract which are to be performed by him, other than terms the performance of which has been prevented or waived by the defendant. Para. Section 16C of the Specific Relief Act, 1963 bars the relief of specific performance of a contract in favor of a person, who fails to ever and prove his readiness and willingness to perform his part of contract. In view of explanation 1 to clause C of section 16, it may not be essential for the plaintiff to actually tender money to the defendant or to deposit money in court, except when so directed by the court, to prove readiness and willingness to perform the essential terms of a contract, which involves payment of money. However, explanation 2 says the plaintiff must ever performance or readiness and willingness to perform the contract according to its true construction. Para. To ever and prove readiness and willingness to perform an obligation to pay money, in terms of a contract, the plaintiff would have to make specific statements in the plaint and adduce evidence to show availability of funds to make payment in terms of the contract in time. In other words, the plaintiff would have to plead that the plaintiff had sufficient funds or was in a position to raise funds in time to discharge his obligation under the contract. If the plaintiff does not have sufficient funds with him to discharge his obligations in terms of a contract, which requires payment of money, the plaintiff would have to specifically plead how the funds would be available to him. To cite an example, the plaintiff may ever and prove, by adducing evidence, an arrangement with a financier for disbursement of adequate funds for timely compliance with the terms and conditions of a contract involving payment of money. Para. A person who fails to ever and prove that he has performed or has always been ready and willing to perform the essential terms of the contract which are to be performed by him other than the terms the performance of which has been prevented or waived by the defendant is barred from claiming specific performance.